7:15 on the dot. Look at the clouds. Top of the shot here. This is the Durden Digital Network downtown on the Houston County Administration Building. And really, you know, as we look over the downtown area, there's a good sign here, Tanya. There are no cars on our vantage point.
Well, there's one.
All right. That's probably one of ours. So
Just
we do have some folks out shuffling to different places right now. But let me tell you this, you know, just as a news operation, you know, we tell you at home, stay off the road. We do it too. Once the actual you know, meat of the storm arrives in our area, our people are locked into place. Okay, so they're not going to be out on the driving around either. You know, we're not asking them to do something that we would tell you not to do. So nonetheless, that's the case right now. So our live unit is out on the road right now, and we have a shot from that if we can take it. Let's take a look at this. Mike Gerspan and Courtney Chandler kind of just moving about right now, and if you give me 2 seconds, I'll tell you where they're at. I know exactly where they're at. They're in front of the old Ted's Jewelers location on Ross Clark Circle. There's the South Trust Wells Fargo Tower. I'm showing my old Dothan here, South Trust Tower.
I remember when it was South Trust.
That's been a while.
Yeah.
All right, so just across from Dothan Kia, who sponsor our sports segment here, they're on the western side of Ross Clark Circle right now. And what you see is wet roadways, and that's the name of the game, and that's, you know, really kind of where we're at right now. Some showers moving through, and as I drove in, I got here about 3:45 or so this morning, and there's that shot of Dothan Kia there. And so the rain was pretty heavy on my way into work as we headed in. But it's sporadic, though, and that's how it is with hurricanes, especially on the outer edges of it. It rains really hard for a little while, then it'll quit, and that's not the time to go, oh, you know, everything's cool now.
Yeah, definitely not advised, as we've said over and over, to get on the roadways unless you have some sort of emergency. But please just use common sense and stay home, and unless I do want to mention this, we've got several questions coming in, and if for whatever reason you do need to get a generator, although we do not advise you get out on the roadways, I've been told from a viewer that Sears, they wanted to let us know that they are going to have plenty of shipment of generators coming in this morning at 8 o'clock. They're going to be about $750. So if you do in an emergency situation need a generator, they're going to have plenty available at that location.
And there are those of you who will need generators to run, you know, whatever in your house, medical equipment, anything like that. You know, just for comfort level, even so the Sears hometown, which is behind the old Bruno's location there on the west side of town. We'll have those available, I guess, around 8 o'clock or so this morning. So that's about 42 minutes away as it stands right now. Do we have any more questions?
We do. I didn't know if you wanted to go ahead and take some.
Yeah, let's do that.
First off, we had somebody, I can't think of their name, but anyway, Facebook, they're asking, and we'll go back to the Storm Center with them if we would, but how much time, I know that things are progressively getting worse, but they wanted to know how much time do we have before the meat of it is really going to get to us, so to speak?
Well, the meat of us for most of the Wiregrass appears to be from, let's say, around 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. is that biggest window where we'll run into the strongest winds on the order of 65 to 75 miles per hour. And right now, I mean, the storm is just, plainly put, it's terrifying looking on satellite imagery.
This keeps getting stronger with the pressure keeps dropping.
It's continuing to get stronger, unbelievably. The pressure's now down to 933 millibars, and the winds surrounding the center of the storm are 145 miles per hour. And this is quite literally unprecedented for the Florida Panhandle, because they have never in recorded history had a Category 4 storm that's made landfall in the Panhandle. I'd like to take the graphics full for just one moment so I can show you the satellite imagery. It's almost got this perfectly symmetrical eye. This is about to come ashore, I would say, within the next 5 to 6 hours near Panama City Beach. And this is just plainly put, like the worst case scenario for places like Panama City and Apalachicola, and I'm afraid that this is going to be a devastating storm for people that are immediately along the coast. Now,
It's like
all
a
of
complete
that,
bullseye for Panama City and
it
Mexico
is.
Beach.
Yes, it is. And now the center of the storm is about 80 miles from moving on shore, about 80 miles from the shoreline. And you see that perfect eye wall there with a lot of lightning strikes surrounding it. It's got that perfect structure where it's just got the most intense winds surrounding the center there on the order of 130 to 140 miles per hour. You saw those maximum sustained winds at 145. Yeah, this is a big deal. This is a serious storm that I really hope people evacuated for. And I say that as a meteorologist. You know, you have to look at it with the historic lens. You know, historically, this has never happened before. We've never had a storm this strong make its way towards the Panhandle. So if you have loved ones that are immediately along the coast, call them and text them and just let them know ahead of time. This is not something that you want to take very lightly. Happening right now in the Wiregrass, we have passing showers out ahead of this incoming storm. And even though, like we just talked about, this is unprecedented for the coast, we're about 85 miles from the coast in Dothan. So this storm is going to have time to weaken before it actually makes its way up into our part of southeast Alabama. But for now, the rain has started, and it's not going to stop until likely 9-10 o'clock later tonight at the earliest. It'll likely last a little bit later than that as these bands of rain continue to come ashore. Here's the latest NEXRAD reflectivity. A lot of that moderate rain showing up just to the south of the Highway 84 corridor. And as you move farther south, those rainfall, the rainfall intensity tends to pick up a little bit. We've got pretty heavy rain falling in Bonifay right now, as well as Graceville in northern Jackson County. Marianna is getting some pretty heavy rain now as well. And these bands are tracking from east to west. So these bands are going to continue progressing as the day goes on. And we also have the threat for tornadoes. It's a low-end threat, just 2% for most of our counties in Alabama, but that highest threat does look to be from Tallahassee to Jacksonville on the I-10 corridor and points to the north, extending all the way into South Carolina. So that's a pretty large field to have that chance for tornadoes. And yeah, that's just another problem that we're going to run into, not particularly here in the Wiregrass, but widespread threat for tornadoes in parts of south central Georgia and South Carolina. So Mandy, yeah. I mean, I know it may sound dramatic, but this, I mean, it really is a storm that you do not want to take lightly. This is a big deal.
Yes, it is very dangerous. And going back to saying what you're saying, you know, people evacuating. Of course, if you have friends or family still in Florida, go ahead and call them. But I know the Florida governor, tweeted out though that, you know, during the meat of the storm, the middle of the storm, that they can't send their first responders out there because they also have to think about their lives, and they have to wait till after the storm passes. So if you didn't evacuate, just keep that in mind. But luckily here, you know, we didn't have any evacuation warnings for the Dothan area.
And
so
that's
good. The good news there.
Yeah, the main reason for that, we're far enough inland so that evacuation orders are not exactly necessary. Mostly for us, we just have to hunker down and wait for the storm to pass, which is exactly what we want you to do starting right now. Just we said that cutoff time is at noon. I would go ahead and say just get home for right now because the bands of rain have already started coming ashore, and just stay off the roads for as long as you can.
Because the roadways are already getting slick.
They're already getting slick, like we heard from our reporters. So just hunker down, wait for this thing to pass. You know, treat it like a severe weather day. You know, interior room of your building, away from doors and windows, because it could very easily get blown out in an event like this. Yeah, and you want to go tie down any loose ends on your porch or anything like that as well. And kind of going back to answering the question, of course, like we said, roughly noon. But if you don't have to be out right now, then don't be out because the rain's already started. But as far as the wind damage, that's really going to pick up more into the early afternoon hours with the tropical storm force winds, and then for us here specifically in Dothan, those hurricane force winds kind of later into the afternoon, early evening hours, roughly. Right. So. Right. That's the main window that we're looking at for right now. For now, I'll go ahead and toss it back over to you, Ben Antonio, with the latest on what's happening in and around Dothan with incoming Hurricane Michael.
All right. Thank you very much, folks. Camping World. We talked about Sears Hometown Store on the west side of town. Going to be selling generators. They open in about 35 minutes if you need one. And I think, what was it, $750 for a generator.
That's let us know that they've got plenty there.
Totally reasonable price for a piece of equipment like that. Camping World also has plenty generators, we are told. Doug Turner watching with us this morning. Thank you, Doug. Filling propane tanks over there as well. There are some limited overnight parking spots as well at Camping World on the west side of town. And you know, if you know folks coming in, you got a family member with an RV, you could try there and try and get one of those spots.
We just want to remind everybody that we have a full list of shelters that are available, places you can take your animals for RVs on our website at dothanfirst.com.
Yeah, let's just kind of hang here for a second. We're looking at questions. We have a post on our Facebook page, WDHN News. And we're just, you know, if you have questions, you can either call us. If you're not on Facebook, you can call us. The phone number is very easy, 793-1818. Of course, that's area code 334. We know we got a ton of folks watching in Southwest Georgia and in our Florida counties as well.
Do we have another minute for another question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
We had
We
somebody
have
else.
all day.
Yeah, that's right. We're not going anywhere. Stupid question. We have somebody wanting to know if there's specifically a place in Enterprise where they are taking animals. I don't know of one. Like I said, we do have a pretty comprehensive list of shelters and places you can take your animals. I know of a place in Dothan and Dale County. Also, I know of a place in Troy and even Montgomery if you need to take livestock. I think the Garrett Coliseum is one of the places you can take livestock, as well as the Dothan Boots and Saddle Club, I believe, is taking livestock here as well. But for smaller animals, if that is a concern from you, I know you can go to the Enterprise, or excuse me, I'm sorry, Ozark Civic Center, provided that the animals, they ask that they please be in a carrier. So
yeah, especially if your cat is mean, like the one at the Stanfield house, you're going to want to, you know, get the cat in the carrier.
Yeah, probably don't need to.
Our cat is inside though. She lives out in the yard, but she's in the house and
that's good to know.
And is being loved very much so today. New comment here.
Oh, go ahead.
Heather and Wesley Whitehead on Facebook. Should the Dothan area be worried about 145 mile per hour winds? Well, here's the issue here, and let's bring the weather crew back up on this too. Yes. The winds won't be that speed in Dothan. No, that's just currently in the system right now. Yeah. So explain that to us.
Those peak sustained winds of 145. Those are just immediately surrounding the center of the storm.
And I tell you what. Let's start that statement. We didn't have your microphone on right away, but just kind of you're good now.
Okay. All right. Sorry about that. But yes, I was saying that. Those 145 mile per hour winds, when they're at their greatest, those are immediately surrounding the eye of the storm. So let me pull up the graphics full really quickly and I'll point that out to you.
And again, that's with a Category 4, and it's going to weaken as it comes onto land too. Exactly.
We're far enough inland so that this storm is going to weaken before it makes its way up into the Wiregrass. So in this surrounding area right here in the eye of the storm, and about a 20-mile radius, that's about how far those major hurricane winds expand. And the tropical storm force wind field is obviously much larger than that. It extends about 180 miles wide surrounding the storm. But in Dothan, like we talked about, it's going to be weakening as it moves farther inland. So what we're going to be dealing with at a maximum will likely be 65 to 75 mile per hour winds, which is no slouch by any means. It's still going to be enough to knock down power lines and knock down trees, which was why we've been reminding you, keep your phones charged today, because when the power inevitably goes out, which it's going to, it's a matter of when and not if, you'll need a way to get warnings. And we'll likely have some flash flood warnings that are issued. We'll likely have maybe a couple of tornado warnings that are issued for our counties in Georgia and in Florida. So it's all the more important to have your phone ready in the event of more warnings being issued. Again, now 80 miles to the southwest of Panama City. That's where the center of the storm is located. And you see that that field of all of those bands of heavy rain that are starting to come in, that extends. Let's see how far that extends. It's a pretty large storm going from the center of the storm all the way up to the outer edge. It's about 170 miles where all of that heavy rain extends to. So that's another thing. It's a very large storm, and the rain has started now. And again, it's basically not going to stop. It's going to be all day long, and it's going to last into the evening hours as well. So, I mean, the evening hours is really prime time, you know, really 5 to 8 o'clock in the evening is when we'll get the worst of it. But I'm seriously concerned for people along the coast who may or may not have evacuated, because this is going to be absolutely devastating storm for people in Panama City. I mean, I've seen talk in the National Weather Service of them issuing what's called an extreme wind warning when the eye wall is coming ashore, and that is very rare. They almost never do that, and they only do that typically when winds are in excess of 110 miles per hour, which they very easily will be with the eye wall of this storm. So again, this is going to be absolutely devastating for people along the coast, but what we'll be looking at more than likely moderate damage from the wind and maybe some localized flash flooding with this.
And also remember, you know, with those power outages, go ahead and if you don't have it already, download our WDHN weather app so that you have a reliable app that'll send you those alerts and everything once the power does go out. And of course, we'll be on Facebook Live and streaming online, of course, if our power goes out as well. But download the WDHN weather app. Like Ben was saying, you know, he just got an alert for just a thunderstorm, and obviously we're having much more than a thunderstorm.
A little bit
today.
of an understatement, yeah, but yeah, landfalling hurricane isn't exactly a thunderstorm. But yeah, the WDHN weather app will obviously inform you when warnings are issued, and of course, if there's a tornado warning, we're going to be covering that like a straight as a laser. We're going to be laser focused in on tornado warnings if they do pop up, even though it's unlikely. I mean, the big thing is going to be, of course, the straight line winds.
Yeah, we've been saying mainly we're on the western side, which is the good news there. You know, you don't really get those spin up tornadoes on the western side. Like I said, the threat's not zero, but it's very, very low end. It's mainly going to be more in the Tallahassee area and on the I-10 corridor just to our east mainly is where those tornado threats will mainly be.
Right, and let's take the graphics full one more time and we'll time out exactly when these winds are going to be coming through here. So it's 7:30 right now. If we move forward in time, as soon as we get to around, let's say 1 p.m., that's when those tropical storm force winds should really start to kick in. And that will be really when that's when the power outages will likely begin. And that's when a lot of the older trees should start possibly coming down. And then as the storm moves farther inland, there you see there at about 4:15 p.m., 74 miles per hour in Mariana. That's a hurricane force wind gust, and that's going to be possible for folks that are right in the path of the storm center. We'll likely be talking about a maximum of Category 1, maybe low-end Category 2 wind gusts when the storm inevitably passes through our area. There you see 62 miles per hour in Dothan around 7 o'clock. So that's why we've been saying, you know, 5 p.m. to 8 p.m., that's basically going to be prime time for many of us. That's when we're going to have to just sit and wait. You know, a lot of those weather fatalities typically happen on the roads, so you just got to find a place to wait it out when it inevitably gets here.
And also, some of the worst part is aftermath, so that's why we've been telling you to go ahead and prepare now. And even if you haven't gotten the things that you need to get, go ahead and do that this morning, even though it's already raining. Those roads are slick, so just be careful out there as you are traveling. But the best time if you do have to go out is now before lunchtime, so you can go ahead and get all that supplies, because if the power goes out, you know, it's going to take the crews a while to get power back up running, especially if it's a widespread power outage. So you might have a couple of days, you know, without electricity, without water. So that's why you need to go ahead and just prepare now. You know, prepare for the worst, but hope for the best.
Yeah, and I would caution you, you know, hopefully you've already done your preparations right now. If you're still doing them, this should be, you know, in an absolute emergency, because the roads are already wet. I mean, we already have rain that's coming down that's going to be nonstop for, goodness, essentially the next 15 to 16 hours that we're going to be seeing consistent rain that's going to add up to our rainfall totals pretty steadily over the next.
And again, we're expecting about 4 to 6 inches.
That's correct.
Roughly,
yes, around 4 to 6 inches in total, possibly locally higher amounts than that. I know we have had recent hurricanes that have dumped a lot more rain than that, but 4 to 6 inches is still certainly enough to cause flash flooding.
And that's the good news with the storm. I mean, it is huge and massive and catastrophic, but at least it's quickly moving or fast moving, so we won't have just all that heavy rainfall like our friends in South Carolina or in the Carolinas, thanks to Hurricane Florence. So.
Yeah, this storm is moving at around 12 miles per hour, which compared to Florence, compared to Harvey, that's like highway speed. So the rainfall is not going to really have as much time to really come down and stack up.
But I did see an interesting fact, though, with the pressure with this one dropping to 933 millibars, that's actually lower than Harvey's lowest pressure.
Yes, it was. That's true. Harvey got down to 937. This is now at 933. And the rate of intensification has been sort of comparable with Michael. I mean, it was a tropical depression 3 days ago, and now it's bada bing, bada boom type of storm, a major Category 4 storm with winds of 145 miles per hour. And I mean, it's just a problem that you have to deal with the Gulf of Mexico, with the waters being as warm as they are.
Yeah, it was perfect bath water, almost about 84
It is.
degrees or
It
mid
really
80s.
is.
So it was perfect for it just to intensify and come on shore there for our friends in the Panhandle. Unfortunately, it is going to be a dangerous one. And again, if you do have friends or family that did not evacuate, you might, want to get in touch
Give them
with
a
them.
call, give them a
Yes.
text message, especially if they're along the coast, because that's where the impacts are going to be at their worst. We're also going to be talking about 9 to 13 feet of storm surge near places like Apalachicola, because they're on the right-hand side of the storm. You have all the onshore flow with winds coming out of the south. The the wind basically shoves all of that water inland, and with 9 to 13 feet, that would basically go over the top of our heads. And that's the type of storm surge that they're going to be having to deal with immediately along the coast, and that's going to be a major problem.
And they've already been reporting they've had, I think, 4 foot already this morning at Apalachicola, and that's just
not
going to
surprising.
go ahead and increase as the day goes on.
Yeah, it's just going to keep going up, unfortunately, with this storm as it progressively moves inland. So for right now, we're going to, I'll go ahead and do a quick reset, and then we'll have another recap of what to expect with Michael as it continues to progress farther inland. But for now, I'll go ahead and toss it back over to you guys.
All right, thanks so much. We've been talking about generators and where to buy them if you need one. They're Sears Hometown on the west side of Dothan. Camping World has some available. Also, Michael Hicks sends us a message, says that Home Depot has generators as well. So
Good to know there.
sounds like they're in pretty good supply right now. So that's but, I mean, if we don't know how long a power outage will last or anything like that, so if you need one, they're available. And if you're in a situation where really your quality of life goes down, for instance, if you have medical devices that need power or recharging, anything of that nature, obviously maybe a good idea to go and get generators. You think of generators as an investment for long-term, situations there. Dutch Holland of Harley-Davidson of Dothan is with us this morning. Says he's been watching us since 4:30. Dutch, thank you so much, and we're here until the storm passes through. Also, we've got some folks just kind of saying hello to us, saying they're depending on us today, and we certainly appreciate you placing your trust in us. One of those, Erin Johnson, says she's in Dothan and is watching us this morning.
And I want to, if I could, just
Yeah.
interject, I want to take this time to let people know that if we haven't addressed something on air, and if you don't see something like such as evacuation shelters on our website at dothanfirst.com or our Facebook page, let us know. We depend on the community, our viewers, and we appreciate them very much. And if there is an important update that needs to be told, we want to hear from you. So
yeah, certainly do. Phone number, and we just punched it up moments ago, but 793-1818. There you go, right there on the screen. And so give us a call. Obviously, area code 334.
so that we can keep everybody up to date and hopefully safe.
You can email us too, news@wdhn.com. We're on all the social media platforms, Twitter, Facebook. On Facebook specifically, because we feel like that's where a lot of our audience is on Facebook, the majority, at least on the social media realm. We have a post on there that says leave your questions here. So if you have a question, you want us to answer it, we'll do it live on TV. So a couple of things to look forward to in our coverage today. Oscar Fan, longtime meteorologist in the market, is in studio with us. He's talking with us from time to time. We're going to link back up with Oscar here coming up in this half hour. Also, we have Mike Gerspan and Courtney Chandler on the west side of Dothan today in that area, covering things. Their setup is at Visit Dothan at the Convention and Visitors Bureau on the west side of town, and thanks to them for hosting us. Also, team coverage will continue throughout the day. Sarah Drake and Donna Williams will be at EMA in downtown Dothan, Houston County Emergency Management, and then later today, our Tiffany McGrath is covering the western side of the storm. She'll essentially start in Enterprise. We felt like Enterprise was a fringe area, so she's stationed over there along with our Dustin Gilley, who works on our production side. So everyone's on a team. We are really, really preaching and practicing safety, and so we say this to you, obviously at home. Stay off the roads. Once about lunchtime hits, you need to call it a day and hang out in the house. But when we get to that point, where the storm really gets rough through this area, we're pulling all of our people off
Yeah.
of roadways. We'll have some live images throughout the viewing area, but
Safety first, for
our
sure.
people are staying put. Yeah. So I think we're going to take a quick break. It's 7:39 this morning. Can we look outside somewhere before we head out and just kind of give you a different scene setter? If not, we'll just go straight to break. We're here all day, friends, and we've got time to do that. So WDHN, the only live television station in the market covering Hurricane Michael. We'll be right back.